Welcome into SportsSource.tv. Every week we do an overtime segment right here where we take a topic we couldn't get to in the show. We bring it over on the internet for you. We're joined by Jimmy Hyams from 990 and 99.1 here in Knoxville, Sports Radio WNML. Joined by 500 game winner and former Vol basketball coach Don DeVoe. Joined by former Division I basketball player and Vol staff member Mark Pankratz. And down there, former Appalachian State head coach and Vol staff member Houston Fancher. There's a lot of knowledge on this desk, so I'll let you guys handle it, and I'll just sit over here in the stupid zone. Tennessee plays Arkansas midweek. I think a lot of people are already looking ahead to next Saturday. Before the season started, the first thing that everybody circled on their calendar, when will Tennessee play Bruce Pearl? And it turns out Pearl's coming to Knoxville. That's next Saturday at high noon, appropriately enough. Here's my question, and it's a tough question, all right? All things considered, let's say you are president of the university or an athletic director. Look at their track records. Bruce Pearl has major baggage. Show cause, banned from the game for 3 years. Donnie Tyndall has some baggage, 2 different schools now at some level, okay? Pearl is a marketing machine, absolutely an army. Tyndall's pretty good at it. He's not to Pearl's level, but he's pretty darn good at it. Pearl has the better on-court record. Pearl's been coaching longer. Who, if you were an AD or president and you were forced to hire one of those two, who would you feel most comfortable with in terms of your hire running your basketball program? And don't everybody jump on that one at once, especially you two guys that worked for Pearl.
I'll let Jimmy take this one.
Donnie Tyndall, because he's here right now.
So you just
that is a hard one, but I think Tyndall's done a good job here. I think we all acknowledge
yes.
that. There's a part of me, I may change that depending on what the NCAA says about what happened at Southern Miss. Until I really know the details, I would say I would go with Tyndall at this point.
Don.
Well, I mean, no question.
I mean,
where do we begin? I certainly, have concern. To me, there's 2 kinds of leaders. You got your coach who's doing the right things all the time. Not questioning anything except doing the right things for his program, his assistant coaches, the university he works for, and if it's at a state university, for the state. We saw what happened here with Bruce Pearl and failing so big in that regard. But he's an outstanding coach. He does a wonderful job with his players. But I'm concerned if I'm an administrator, in the big picture, where are we going to be, down the road? What kind of young men are we going to be able to bring in with this particular coach? And are we going to, over the long haul, be something that this university and state, is going to be proud of? So without question, I would go with Donnie Tyndall.
And that is another thing that I didn't put in that list. There were a lot of washouts. I mean, Bruce Pearl, about 50% of the guys he signed washed right out. And I know basketball has become an extremely transient sport now. You got 400 kids transferring every year, so it's an epidemic. Still, Tennessee had a lot of kids that left the program or were thrown out of the program while he was here. I think the greatest signing class he had was the big 5-man class. One never got on campus, and only one of them finished in Wayne Chisholm. So who you bring in and how well they perform and behave, I think, is part of the scenario. Mark Pankratz, you're next. Welcome to the hot zone.
I go back and forth on, if you're just trying to win basketball games, obviously Coach Pearl, or even just make money for the university, that's Coach Pearl, that's where his sweet spot. But I think also because we all know Coach Pearl and we were close to him, we know some of the players that weren't here and what they did to leave the program, it's harder for us to say Coach Pearl. But I do think, if you're just going off of wins and losses, Coach Pearl's been there. He's won a lot of basketball games, and so it's hard not to say Coach Pearl is just a straight basketball coach. But I do think, because they both have had NCAA stuff, so I think it would be a toss-up for me, but I would lean towards Coach Pearl.
Okay.
Same thing for me. I would be the same way, and I can take emotion out of it. Because I didn't play for him. I didn't spend as much time with him as Mark did. But I just think if you look at a body of work, if you look at 18 and 19 years winning seasons, the things he did as far as success is concerned, he did recruit at a high level. Now he made some changes that probably hurt him down the stretch, in my opinion, on the type of players that he went after. And maybe the position got a little bit big for him here at Tennessee. Maybe it got a little bit outside the boundaries where it should have been. But at the same time, when you look at success rate, when you look at body of work, now Donnie Tyndall, for the last 5 years, this year included, is being successful as well, and he has won. But we're talking about a 6-year run compared to a 20-some year run. And I think if you look at that body of work right now, I would have to go with Bruce Pearl.
John Adams went down to Auburn, interviewed Bruce Pearl, talked to some other folks down there. I think he talked to Auburn Athletic Director Jay Jacobs. They made it clear, and I thought this was interesting, and if I'm a Tennessee fan, I don't like it. I mean, I can imagine Vol fans thumbing through the paper today going, what the heck? Mike Hamilton gave him a ringing endorsement, apparently, and said he's a one-man marketing machine. If I were Mike Hamilton and Bruce Pearl was part of the reason I lost my job, I don't know. Mike also went out to Southern Cal to a practice where Lane Kiffin was. Mike's the most forgiving man in the world. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I probably don't like that going on. Also, and we talked about this at the time, Dave Didion, who was in charge of that investigation that said he's in trouble, he needs to go, then was hired by Auburn and said, you got to hire this guy immediately. I think that's an incredible conflict of interest. If you were on an NCAA committee that said he's bad news, then you go to a school and say, let's hire him.
Well,
that's kind of weak.
You bring up a great point, because how much validity do we give the NCAA? How much longer is it going to be here? So if you're going to go, if the NCAA has no backbone half the time to what they're doing and no consistency, it's just about hiring a basketball coach that's going to win games.
No. I mean, basically, as long as you can avoid a show cause, and that's something Pearl couldn't do. But if you can get a guy who can just cheat a little bit, you don't know what the NCAA is going to do. So maybe you do just roll the dice, as horrible as that sounds.
University of Houston just hired Kevin Sampson, who's obviously a double repeat offender.
As
Rick
soon as
Pitino
Pearl
seems
got
to be
hired.
going. Yeah, that's right. Rick Pitino seems to be going pretty strong right now, and he vacated 2 Final Fours at schools he's been at.
Calipari.
Calipari.
Who did I say?
Pitino.
I've lost
He'd
my
be
mind.
mad.
I've lost
He'd
my
be
mind.
mad at you, man.
Oh, absolutely. Is that? I forgot. I thought Pitino was
But
still
he
at
had
Kentucky.
but he had off the court stuff too. Now, I mean,
Oh, exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
it's-
Exactly.
That's human.
Now,
I've
I've been around a little bit longer than you guys, and let me tell you, I've seen people come up through the coaching ranks, and I've seen all kinds. But if I'm an administrator, I am concerned about the big picture. You have to be concerned about the big picture, because it's just more than just winning this season, or winning last season. You have to be concerned about a lot of constituents, especially at a school like the University of Tennessee. I live outside the vacuum most of the time. I'm living in Maryland, and the amount of negative publicity that was brought to this university by Bruce Pearl, cannot be measured by anybody that lives around here. I'm telling you, I really, and I felt badly, to be honest with you, about all coaches who had coached here at the University of Tennessee, because you know what? When someone does some of the things that Bruce did or got accused of here, that makes everybody think, well, all coaches at the University of Tennessee have been like that, and that's far from the truth. I've just seen, and I've come up through the ranks through the years, and I've known what honest coaches who work hard can accomplish by doing the right things. Bruce just crossed the line too many times, and it wasn't a one-time thing. That's what always kind of bothers me. People say, well, he just made one mistake.
Well,
the University of Tennessee did not release Bruce Pearl because of one thing.
I-
There was a multitude of things that happened here that we'll never know about, but I do know about a lot of it.
I think
And again, I live outside the vacuum, and I know. I like for Tennessee to win. I want Tennessee to win every game. When Bruce was here, I felt the same way. I wanted him to win, but I wanted him to do the right things.
Sure. I
Because
think-
this is a very important job. I followed a fellow who had just a wonderful, impeccable reputation here, Ray Mears. I mean, he brought Tennessee to the new era of college basketball in the SEC. He changed so many things, but he was doing the right things, and I really felt like you have to do that, if you want to be successful.
I think Tennessee was very lucky to get off as free as they did for the Pearl tenure. That's all I'm going to say about that. You had something that's very quickly.
I do think regardless in this discussion, we can't always just take one end of the spectrum or the other. There's somewhere in between, because also Bruce had the Outlive campaign with cancer, where he helped this place raise a lot of money. I grew up outside the box in Chicago. When he took this job at the University of Tennessee, I said, why in the world would you want to go to Tennessee? Men's basketball, you're third fiddle. So he brought a lot of national prominence to the basketball program that it hasn't always had. So they did bring positives with some of the baggage.
Houston, I'm going to let you finish, and I'm going to ask you something. You may not want to do this. If you don't, you don't. I'll edit it. You just mentioned before we started this what someone said in a meeting, first meeting. Would you care? I mean, I don't think that would be negative. Do you have a problem repeating what Dave Hart said to everybody when he first came in?
Dave Hart said the same thing that Conzo Martin said when we first started working here at the University of Tennessee. Dave Hart walked into the initial staff meeting, in his opening statement, after he welcomed everybody and welcomed to the university, I just want to let you know that regardless of what position you're in, if you get caught cheating, you'll be fired. There'll be no discussion. You'll be let go. and he put his flag in the sand right away. Gonzo Martin did the same thing with our basketball staff. You know, that's the type of people that we were working for at the time. They walk in, they let you know right away, don't walk the rope with us, or we will let you go.
And the thing is, if that's Dave Hart's position, you wonder, Jimmy, and I'll let you finish, does that mean if you cheat while you're here or if you've cheated in the past? I think that if you're Donnie Tyndall, that's got to be cause for concern.
Well, it is cause for concern. Again, it gets back to what does the NCAA say? What do they find out? What can they pin on Tyndall, if they can pin anything on him? And I just think the NCAA needs to have one of those letters in that A stands for arbitrary. You never know what they're going to do.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you very much to all of you. Thank you. Long segment. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next week right here on SportsSource.tv and next Sunday at 11 a.m. on WATE 6 for the Sports Source. Thank you very much.